James.
Yeah.
Adrian.
Gerda.
Adrian.
Dazzy. Dean.
Go, darling.
Well, good to see you all. And there are quite a few old timers here today that have heard the spiel many, many times. But sadly, they'll have to hear it again, because there's nothing new. So I go over the same old, same old. We can't teach you anything, and we can't tell you anything. Understand that right from the start, because there's nobody that can teach you anything, and nobody that can tell you anything. Because what we talk about is what they call Advaita in Hinduism, or non-duality. Non-duality means not two, one without a second. So it's only the one who is there that can teach you or tell you anything. Nobody. So it's just a matter of resonating with what you hear, if you resonate with it, and recognise it, and put it to the test. And another way I put it, I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body-mind identity which you have believed or might still believe that you are, that person, that separate entity. They're individual. If there is anything separate and apart from it, it wouldn't be one, would it? One is the absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Nothing. It wouldn't be absolute. What can you take away from the absolute? Nothing. It wouldn't be absolute. And the same with the perfect. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. What can you take away from the perfect? Nothing. So the Buddha's put it, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. It's that awareness without any concepts. And Hindus, Satchitananda, Nama Rupa, they're the five factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness or awareness, Ananda is loving to be. And as I say, the Nama Rupa, the Nama is the name we've been given and believed ourselves to be, and the Rupa is the body, the form. They tell you that Nama Rupa, name and form, is Maya. It's illusory. So this body-mind idea we've got about ourselves is illusory. And that leaves us with the existence, consciousness, bliss. Anyone who's not existing, and you recognise, no, I'm existing. Anyone who's not conscious or unaware, and you know, no, I'm not unconscious, I'm not unaware. Anyone doesn't love to be. Well, none of you want to be dead right now. So you are that Satchitananda already. Now what's the point of trying to become something that you already are? And that becomes the problem. And that's what we point to. Are you this body-mind? Are you this conceptual image of a better self? Are you the body? Well, when you investigate that, and that's the main thing we point out, that the false cannot stand up to investigation. We've taken on all these erroneous beliefs, which we take to be real, but when they're looked into and investigated, they fall apart under the investigation. Are you the body? Well, you know already, no, you're not the body, because you say my body. You say my coat, my car, my house. Are you the coat? You know you're not your coat. Are you the car? You're not the car. Are you the house? No, you're not the house. Well, maybe you're not the body either. this body you're claiming to be you. And when you investigate it, you see it's a fact. What's the body made up of? You see this body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you. Well, if you think you're separate, stop breathing. Take that element air out. How long are you going to last without that? Take the element water. You'd soon die of thirst if you didn't drink water. Take the body temperature of the fire. You'd soon get hypothermia and die of the cold. See if you can get off the earth and live off the earth. Or get out of space. So when you see that, you realise you're not separate from any of those elements. And all those elements being broken down into subatomic particles, into pure energy. And what's energy? Energy is a vibration, an activity, a movement. So this body can be broken down into pure energy. What about this thing we call mind? Everybody's claiming my mind. My mind. Well, show me your mind if you've got to think you're the mind. Anybody ever found a thing that they can call mind? They've done millions of autopsies on people. If they ever dug a mind out of it with the operatives. You can find a brain, you can find a heart, the liver, the lung, but nobody's ever found a soul or a mind. But we believe there is such a thing. We'll have a look at mind. What's mind? Well, mind's just thought. And how many words were you born with? What's thought? Why do words? What's words? Sounds. What are sounds? A vibration. And what's a vibration? A movement of energy. So this thing called mind can be broken down into nothing but energy. The thoughts, feelings and emotions that come up. What's a thought? It breaks down into words. The sounds break into words. Well, how many words were you born with? And you realise you weren't born with any words. That's why you can't remember your birth. You say, I was born. And you didn't have any words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed as that little embryo, that little baby was growing. And we learnt words from your parents. And you're taking these words to be what I am, to be real. But is the word the thing? Take the word water. Try and drink the word, if you think the word is the thing. Swim in the word, wash in the word, drink the word. You can't. The word fire, can it burn your mouth? Can you heat yourself with it? You can't. So what's this word I or me? And you realise all it is this believed in conceptual image. What your parents told you. Your little Billy, or your little Jane, or your little Mary, or whatever your name might be. And that sense of presence, the knowing that you are, translates into the thought. I am Billy, or I am Mary. So that sense of I am, what is that? That capacity of reasoning development is translated into that thought. I am. And Nisargadatta will tell you, you've got to stay with the I amness. And people think, well, I've got to repeat I am, I am, I am. And I'll get to it. But you don't have to do that. Because that's what the I am is, a sense of presence. A sense of being aware. Hey. All it is the awareness of presence. not the awareness of something past or of something in the future, but that awareness is presence, it's happening right now. It is an activity. Aware. You're not unaware right now. So you must be aware. And in that awareness, the knowingness and the seeingness and everything else happens. And on that awareness, which you can't say what awareness is, but we call it awareness, just a label. And that's the primary. Everything appears in that awareness. And in that awareness, consciousness appears. And in the consciousness, we get all these patterns, shapes and forms and labels. And the pure being is recognised. You call yourself a human being. If you believe in God, you'll call God the Supreme Being, a greater being than what I am. And that I am is the sense of presence expressed as words that we've learnt. But you take yourself to be a human being. And if you believe in this God, the higher power, or the greater being, you'll call that the Supreme Being. Take away the label Supreme, take away the label human. Anyone who is not being right now, not wasing what was, or not what will be, but in the actuality of this present moment, is anyone who is not being or is unaware right now. Well, if that's what you are, that pure awareness of being, you already are. So who is there, or what is there to search? And what are you searching for? What do you think you're going to become if being will never be becoming? Because becoming implies a future time. But when you look into time and investigate time, you'll see itself, as time itself is a mental concept. Ask yourself, what is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? And you're sitting there, we'll just let the thought be for a moment, put it aside, and see what you can say or think or do without the thought. And you realise, without the thought, you can't say it's good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. Can't say anything at all about it. But you haven't stopped breathing. Your heart hasn't stopped beating. Hair and fingernails haven't stopped growing. Food hasn't stopped being digested. The actual functioning or livingness is going on without the necessity of thought. Thoughts come up on that. But you didn't learn any words or have any thoughts till you're about 2 years old. And that thinking is what we call mind. This thing you're claiming is my mind is nothing but thought. What's thought? Word. What's word? Sound. What's sound? A vibration. And what's a vibration? A movement of energy. So we're back to this again, the activity of knowing. And what's this thing you call God? Well, we believe there is this greater power, but look out there in nature, you'll see the earth rolling around the sun, the seasons coming and growing, tides coming in and out, stars, planets, galaxies, and are forming, imploding, exploding, tsunamis are coming, all sorts of things are happening, and it's that same essence or life that's breathing you. It's beating your heart, growing your fingernails, and digesting your food. So it's all that one essence or one life, if you like to call it that. All the one life, the one essence. So it's one without the other. And these other things that are seemingly patterning, shape and forming, they are still that same essence which is vibrating. What's the basic screen in which everything appears? Well, it's that same screen that you are sitting in right now. You mightn't even be noticing it. But what are you sitting in? What's the closest thing to your eyeballs? What's the first thing you see? And you'll say, I see you, or I see that. But unless you've investigated this before, and a lot of you have and know it already, the thing closest to your eyeballs is space. And the next thing from here, what I'm seeing is space, then that thing there, and then the rest of the thing. Any of it outside of space? It's not. What is space? Can you find a centre to it? See if you can find a centre to space. Where does it begin? And you can't think of any centre or any place where it begins in, because space has no shape. It's got no boundaries, no beginning, no ending, no inside, no outside. Can you find the inside of space? You can't. Can you find the outside to it? Any boundaries to it? It has to be enclosed in boundaries to have any in or out to it. It is no thing. And you and I, the trees, the flowers, and all this manifestation are things. Space is no thing. Can you postulate or think of anything that could be outside of space? What would it be in? You don't have to Rhodes Scholar to see that. There's nothing I can postulate or think of that could be outside of space. Nothing at all. So everything, trees, the flowers, the mountains, the hills, the microbes, the germs, everything is the content of space. There's nothing you can think of that could be outside of it. You and I are things, the trees are things, the flowers are things, all the content of space. Space being no thing, and all these things are the content. Can the content, no thing, be any other than the space, no thing? Can something ever come from no thing? It can't. It's impossible. But it seemingly divides up into things. Seemingly it appears in these pattern shapes and forms. But it's all no thing that vibrates again in that vibration into different pattern shapes and forms. That I amness, that sense of presence, is no thing. So it's still the no thing, it's still the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything and the no thing. And Shakespeare told you that 400 years ago when he said there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. No thing that's good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We have this capacity of thinking, reasoning, which is a vibration. And have a look at see how that functions. This mind, all your thinking, it vibrates in the interrelated opposites. You're either in the past, which is memory, or in the future, which is imagination and anticipation. That's how it vibrates, past and future. What's it? Look at time. Is there such a thing as past? It's gone, it's dead. Yesterday is dead. Is there such a thing as future? You can't, there's no such thing as future. And does this spontaneously moment, this fresh and new now, does it have any duration? Does it last? No, it's just a throb, a pulsation. As it's beginning, it's already ending. It's got no duration whatsoever. So time is a mental concept. Shakespeare told you that. Nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We bring in time. Nisargadatta tells you there's nothing that nothing can trouble you. Nothing at all can trouble you except your own imagination. Have a look at that word, imagination. Break it down to imagine, or break that down to imagine, and realise that's what we're doing. We're creating all these conceptual images that appear, putting labels, shapes and forms, and we're imagining this, that or the other. All these words or concepts, vibrations we've taken on board, and we imagine they're happening, and so we take it on. I'm fearful, I'm anxious, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, I'm guilty. All the concepts or labels we put on are all imagined, all mental images. And that's what's troubling me, because when you look into it, it's only me that can be fearful, isn't it? If you're fearful, who's fearful? I am. I am is this me. Only me that can be unhappy. Only me that can be jealous, envy, depressed, guilty, shame. Me is the cause of all this psychological suffering. And the effects of the cause are me, this conceptual image. Now if me is the cause, and it's seeming this me that's the effect, what happens if I ask myself the simple question? If I'm not relating to a cause, can there be an effect? Well, have a look at that and question it. If you're not relating to the cause, where or who, to whom, can the effect lodge? And all that cause and effect are, they tell you in the scriptures, is so-called karma. It's all this fear and imagination that goes on, my karma, this is going to happen, and all the concepts and ideas we've built around that. And all these so-called karmic consequences. But if I'm not relating to this fictional me, where can the effect lodge? If me is the cause. If they recognise there can't be a cause, there's nowhere for these effects to lodge, it becomes what we call an unfixated awareness, where the awareness is not fixated on anything. It's free to see the comings and goings, the vibration of all these things, but we're not fixating on one. And that's what they tell you in the scriptures. Be utterly awake with the five senses wide open, where you're seeing, you're hearing, you're tasting, you're touching, you're smelling, you're feeling, you're thinking, all equally. But we're not doing that. We get taken in the thinking or the seeing and keep it there. Instead of letting it change and move on, we hold these thoughts, there are concepts, and it becomes seemingly solid and substantial. We beat ourselves with the word, with the sensation, with the feeling. Be utterly awake with the five senses wide open, and it says to be utterly open with unfixated awareness. If you're fixating on something, you're not seeing the totality. But if you're open, instead of staying on thinking, you move into the other senses that are there, and when they come up, you can be free to whatever is going on in this present moment without fixating and sticking with something which we might hang on to for hours or days or weeks and beat ourselves up with a dead image. When it's ever fresh, ever new, constantly transient, ever changing. Like the ocean is ever changing, but never changing. So you've got a calm, serene oceans. It'll start to move, when the energy will blow through it, it'll cause a ripple to form or a wave to form, and it'll grow, the waves will grow. There's no two waves the same, but all those waves are water. Still the ocean, but we call it the waves, or the storm, or whatever. So it's ever changing with those words, but it's still only the ocean. So this life essence, this capacity of knowing, this capacity of reasoning, the life that you are, the intelligence energy, that's ever changing, but it's still only life. And Nisargadatta tells you that. He says there is only life. That's all there is. It's right here, right around you. There's life everywhere, and every pattern, shape and form in this room, and the trees and the flowers and everything. That's all there is life. There is nobody who lives a life. We've taken on the persona, the belief, and the persona is a word that comes from the ancient Latin persona, the mask. A mask of concepts we put upon ourselves. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow. They're all concepts. What happens when the life goes out of that pattern called you? Becomes a corpse. That corpse, before it breaks down, still got the eyes, the ears, the heart, the lungs, all those vital organs, the brain, are still there. But without that life, that intelligence entity vibrating and expressing through it, what good is it? It's a corpse, but nothing animating. It continues to break down and rot and forms bacteria, germs and things like that that help it to break down, and goes back to the only place it can go back into is space, the emptiness. And just like the cloud that seemingly obscures the sun, when you realise that that sun has never left the sky, it's still shining in its fullness, but the clouds seemingly obscure it. Well, the same thing has happened with the thoughts. In that clarity of pure intelligence, the awareness that you are, thoughts come up and seemingly cloud it over and obscure it. But when you investigate the sun and the cloud, you realise the sun forms the cloud. The sun doesn't know anything about the cloud, but it's the activity of the sun, the brilliance, the heat, the immensity enables in that heat, it evaporates water. And the water rises as steam. The steam condenses a little bit and forms the cloud. And the cloud obscures the sun. Now the sun will continue to shine, and its radiance, what will it do? It'll cool it down and bring the cloud down as rain. Or blow the cloud, cause the wind to blow the cloud away. And what's in the sky then? What's in the empty space then? Isn't there more clarity? The sun's there in all its brilliance, shining brightly. Well, the same thing applies in this thinking. Like when all these thoughts come up, concepts, ideas, images, and obscure the life essence that you are, the vibrating, the livingness, and we get locked into these thoughts and concepts, and forget all about the life. That life that's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out, the volcanoes to explode, implode, or stars and galaxies to form. What's doing all the patterning, shaping and forming in this life, it's what's breathing you. It's the same life. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair and your fingernails, digesting the food. It's the actual livingness that you are. So, what must you be? You must be that life itself. Look at your computer. That's a good analogy to use. You've got a computer there. Look at the wonderful, amazing information that's been put into it to build it. Applying as a pure intelligence and that from the that's been utilised by these patterns, shapes and forms we call these human beings. They have the capacity of reasoning developed. Can put all this information into the computer. But if you haven't turned the power on, what are you going to get out of the computer? So you'll see no matter what amazing things you put into it, they're not a bit of good without that power. And no matter what's happening in this body, mind, or how brilliant you are, without that life, you're nothing but a corpse. You're no good at all. So then what are you? You must be like Christ said a couple of thousand years ago. He says, I am the life. Doesn't say I am the body, I am the mind. He says, I am the life. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. People thought he's talking about himself and set him up there as somebody greater. He wasn't talking about himself, he was talking about that same I amness that you are. It's the sense of presence. It's not the thought. It expresses and translates to the thought. But there's nobody who is unaware right now. You're aware of that presence. That sense of presence is active in you right now. That's the way. That's the truth. That is what you are. And that is so already. How did you come about? You'll say, I was born, but you can't remember your birth. And Nisargadatta tells you that. He says there's only life. That's the reality. That's all there is, life. But there's nobody who lives a life. And you will believe yourself to be these bodies and mind. When you believe that, that's a belief. And a belief's not the actual. Nobody who lives a life. But he says life lives on life. For out of life, that more life comes in that vibration. And that's true. Where did you come from? You'll come from the life that was your parents. Go back to your father and your mother, that animating life energy in your father, the intelligence energy, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle to form through the food he's eaten and the breath he's breathing, and the life activity that's going on, that's utilising, enabled a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. Now that sperm was suffused with intelligence. It wasn't just a mob of glue. It was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same in your mother. That animating life essence or the intelligence energy in your mother enabled in that pattern an egg or an ovum to form. And that egg was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It wasn't floating around accidentally. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus, knowing what to do. And the sperm, knowing what to do, swam to the ovum. When those two came together, that life essence in the two began to form and grow on that pattern coming together, and the genes and things that were there, and the life that was coming into your mother, and formed the little fetus, the little embryo, which is what you are today. What are you doing about it then? You realised you couldn't do anything, you had no words, but you were growing without the word, pointing out that you're prior to the mind. There was no mind then. And you didn't learn any words till you were about 2.5. So you were functioning all that time without this thing you call mind. The absolute intelligence, spontaneously patterning and vibrating, had no words or concepts to discriminate it. When the little baby was hungry, it'd cry. When it was happy, it'd gurgle. If it wanted to defecate, it'd defecate. If it felt hungry, it'd let you know. The functioning was going on. Make a few sounds, just like the animals and birds will make sounds now. One sound might be there's food here, another sound there's danger, a call. But they haven't got any words, so they can't discriminate. And so that little child couldn't discriminate till it learnt words. And it tells you in Hensing Men, when no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to be. The way we've been believed into thinking ceases to be that way. The thinking will be in a more spontaneous, different way. The activity of knowing, of being and loving to be. So all our problems are because of the word. The Buddha called it a cognizing emptiness. I'm talking about emptiness before. Everything is that emptiness that's forming, emptiness is form. But it's a cognizing emptiness. A cognizing, another term for cognizing, is knowing. It's that knowing that you are. It's the emptiness that's doing the cognizing. And he made the statement that emptiness is form. It's that cognizing or intelligence energy in that life that's forming this manifestation and everything in it. Emptiness is form, and he turned it round the other way, and these forms, you and I and everything else, the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. And it is a phenomenal manifestation. This whole manifestation, which we all appear, is phenomenal. Dictionary definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's not real, it's only an appearance. It's only seemingly so. Like a dream. And Nisargadatta says, you're dreaming a dream you call the world. And he says, stop looking for ways out. He says, the dream is not your concern. Leave it as it is. Your concern is that you love one part of the dream and not the other. Isn't that so? We're trying to change this dream. We're not happy with it because of the concepts and ideas that go on through the belief in separation. We don't want it. We want one part and not the other. He says, love all of it, or none of it. Leave it as it is. Love all of it or none of it. And the rest will be done for you. And that's the beautiful thing to recognise and realise. It is done for you. It brought you into existence. It's breathing you. It's beating your heart, growing your hair follicles right now. It knows what to do. It takes you where you got to go. And when you resist and get into all sorts of shit and trouble, like I got into for years. But in the recognising of it, a lot of it falls away because it cannot be believed in anymore. And what's the belief? Look in your dictionary definition of belief. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We haven't reasoned it out, we've just taken it for granted. What our parents tell you. When they told me I was Bob, I believed I was Bob, the good boy, the bad boy, and all the other concepts. Not realising I was the absolute. I was the presence awareness, the pure actuality, pure being. And I learned all these words. And all these concepts drop away, left as is. What's isness? Isn't isness part of the verb to be? Am, was, is. Not was or not will be, but is. Right in this spontaneous immediacy that's vibrating, ever-changing, but never changing in the moment. Got no duration because it's in time as duration. But the spontaneous functioning. It's breathing me, isn't it breathing you? What's your next breath going to be? It's beating my heart, isn't it beating your heart? Or are you doing it? Look at it, see for yourselves how we've taken this me to be so great and wondrous. I can do this, I can do that. Can you take a breath without that life? Can you think a thought without that life? Can you feel a feeling without that life? What's good or bad if you're not thinking about it? What's your next thought going to be? Most of you will say, I don't know, and you don't know what your next thought's going to be. But the thought comes up. And you say, I think, you've claimed it. What's claimed it? Is it the reality? Or the believed in conceptual entity, the person? It's me. I'm having this thought. It's my thought. The thought is the concept. And the I that's having the thought has become the thinker. There is thinking going on, but now it's claimed by me, a thinker. And me is thinking this thought. So the thought has become the object. The thinker and thought are subject and object. Seer and seen are subject and object. Hearer and heard are subject and object. Dualism. But can there be a thinker without thinking? Have a look at that. And you realise there can't be a thinker without thinking. And can there be the thought without thinking? There can't be. So then you'll understand what Shakespeare was saying when he was telling you there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Just the thinking. And you don't know what your next thought is going to be, so thinking is happening. And you don't have to abide it in the subject and object. Just leave it as it is. And thinking is spontaneous. It'll change. And it's constantly changing. And that's all this manifestation is. It's transient. It's all changing right now. There are thousands of cells dying in that body right now. And you don't realise or recognise it. And each cell that's replacing it knows what to do. A liver cell's not going to replace a skin cell. And a skin cell's not going to replace a heart cell or a brain cell. Each cell suffused with intelligence knows what to do. And we as these little human beings claim it that we have this power. We can do this and do that. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Relax. Let it happen. Let that life essence. Relax right now. Just drop everything. And see how long you'll stay without the breath. The life essence will make you take a breath. The next thought, it'll come up. As soon as you try to force it out, to try to do something with it, you're in trouble, in conflict. Life is functioning quite naturally. The earth is rolling around the sun right now, just the same as it's breathing it. This part is facing towards the sun and it's light. But the sun doesn't know anything about light or darkness. It shines of itself, it's ever shining. And the earth doesn't know anything about light or dark. It's ever the same. And without the darkness, could we know anything about light? The light of intelligence, the light of knowing, the light of life. That's what Christ told you. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. It says in the scriptures, let your light so shine before men they may see the good works and glorify the Father, that essence that you are. It's the light of life. Where does the light come into your body? You see a corpse, the first thing you notice about a corpse, if you watch it, is the glaze goes over its eyes and shuts off. The light of life goes out of it. Where does that life come into your body? The light comes through the mother. In the umbilical cord, comes into the child. It's that light of life. And light needs an aperture to shine out of. And what's the aperture it shines out of? You've got a light under cover, it'll find a crack somewhere to shine out of. Doesn't it shine out of your eyes? That's the aperture which the light of life exposes. Then you can say like Christ, I am the light of the world. Because it's in that light that the world appears. Without that light, what would you know about it? So, understand and recognise that you are already that. Jesus Christ, I've been going over tonight.
No. Keep going.
Yes. So, as I say, that the old timers are here that know about it. They can tell you their take. You might put it in a different way to what I do, where somebody might resonate with it. Others are not so new, have got a good grasp of it. Others that are here for the first time might have questions. But it's up to each and every one of you, which are already that. That's how it's passed on. If you didn't open your mouth, who or what's going to hear it? So it's what you know, let it out there so it can be recognised or resonated and help someone who is lost in the darkness of that self-centre or ego to see clearly. So away you go. Good.
I had an interesting.
You gotta wait for the
I had
mic.
an interesting.
Wait for the mic.
Oh, sorry.
What?
She gets to wait for the microphone, and yeah.
I had an interesting drive down to Inverloch yesterday, talking truth all the way to my drummer and my guitar player, because they were sort of into meditation and looking at different things, and so you might get a couple of people on Zoom this week, or and it was just amazing how it all just came out of my mouth, just pointing to the reality that they really are, and they were very inspired by that, and they got your website details, and we spoke for about an hour and a half all the way down to Inverloch about truth. So their names are Mark and Julio, so you might get contacted by them. Yeah.
I'll just quickly say this. We have a couple of things from online, and we have about 35 people with us. Welcome, and welcome those who came late and are new to our community. We are meeting every Sunday, and the format of the meeting is just like this, that Bob speaks for about half an hour or an hour, and then we just interact. We ask questions. Because we have people online with us, we live stream through Facebook and upload it to YouTube. That's why we pass on the mic, so the people who are outside the room can also hear us.
But we also have the benefit of Zoom.
We do, yes. We have 3 Zoom meetings additionally in a week. One on Monday morning, which is Sunday afternoon for America, and Tuesdays and Thursdays in our evenings. So if anyone wants to tune in, you're more than welcome. And we also have a couple of comments from the community The couple of welcome messages, and that was Dave saying, every time I hear this, it sinks in a little deeper. And that's really that kind of proves really effective to listen to the message fresh and new. It sinks a bit deeper, because initially when we listening with the mind, the tendency is to evaluate, to agree or disagree, to always have some sort of a judgment or opinion over what is heard. That sort of that controller doesn't really let it in all the way. But as it is heard repeatedly, it passes that barrier and it sinks to the core, to the heart. And then it opens up and it is heard from a completely different place. And Amarnath says, he's quoting Ramana Maharishi, I know self and I do not know self, both are false, knower and I, or not too. And Tanya says, that was great, Bob. Listening to the spiel, there was a relaxation, recognizing there is not really a problem. The problem is imagination. An old story seeming to be believed in for years without the thought it is gone, so it can't be true. The one that thought seemed to be relating to is not found. What is the me is just a word, thought, memory, concept. Thank you so much. And Keith says, hi, Bob and Cal and everyone. And Benjamin says, what is Bob's definition of soul? Does he use another word for it?
Yeah. I don't call it S-O-U-L. I don't know anybody that's ever found a soul. But it's S-O-L-E. What we're talking about is non-duality. One. So that one is the soul one. One Atman, not many souls or Atman, Brahman. See, whatever label I like to put on it, it's the one self, or soul. And everything is that soul, unitary, one essence, appearing as many.
Yes, so we don't have equivalent for the word soul. We just basically question the existence of the separate soul and find there isn't one. So there's no need for the replacement word. Similarly with the ego or other things. Benjamin says thank you. And now I would like to invite every one of you to just open up and then share. There are old timers here like Jane. She knows Bob for half of her lifetime or more. And Gilbert and Tazi and James has a nice clarity to him, even though he knows Bob for quite a short while. And
somehow Heyman needed that.
Heyman
so
and Dean, absolutely,
thank
yes,
you.
go.
So there are small body parts around the spinal cord that when we do physical exercises or work in a week or in a day, I mean, after a while we visit a chiropractor to fix them with simple moves and techniques and pressure. So I want to thank Bob to adjust some of the blocks in the system, in my mental system. You're a mental chiropractor.
Yes.
That's a nice
metaphor.
Very nice. Thank you.
I like getting my adjustments pretty regularly too.
Good, Julia, come on, share about your adjustments.
Okay. There isn't much to say. You know, I too like to share. You'll probably get a few more people. Let's say Julia Spira. Talked to a teenager the other day.
Oopsie.
How do you adjust nothing?
You can't. There's nothing to adjust. But it's fun to like, because 99.999% of the our fellow I don't even know the word to use, or dreamers or whatever, or they're not even like, nobody even considers that we're no thing. Who cares? Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. When I watch people suffer, my heart. Huh?
It gets you.
Well, yeah, whatever. It's
nobody cares. Well, that's not fair.
When I see others suffer, and then I share with them what I've been coming to it's fun to watch. To watch it's like a light goes on and or I don't know what happens, but it's really fun to just to share this with people. And when I was talking to a teenager the other day, well, it was funny because she started out telling me that she was in her head. And I'm like, oh, I've been there. I can relate to that.
Disneyland.
Huh?
Disneyland.
Yeah. And then I just sort of shared with her that the thoughts are, well, they're just sounds. And when those sounds are given meaning, oh, they're very important and special. But when the meaning is seen to be just kind of also more sound, well, then that's like kind of the, I don't know, I think what I'd said to her, I love the snake and the rope metaphor. You know, so when you have somebody who's really, really afraid of snakes, and you turn the light on and you see that that snake has always been a rope, how long does it take for the fear to go away? So grateful. Nothing much for me to contribute here. Yeah.
I have a comment. Oh, Adrian. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is going to come out too well, but I'm letting go of trying to say things perfectly and perfectly non-dual, but...
And they come up perfect.
That's right. Seeing all that, oh, I've got to sound good and non-dual and stuff like that, and seeing all that, it's bullshit, let all that go. But I like the idea of the light trying to find its way through the cracks, and that's what it feels like it's for me. It's sort of like the more that light, and you've got to use words, but it's more like that light, which is the truth, here's the truth, the more it grows, and the cracks get bigger, or the separateness gets burnt up and seeing through more. It's like the more truth hears truth, the more it sees truth and starts to see through the stuff that's not truth, sort of thing, in a way, which is words, but yeah. And the other thing I liked is that life that apparently brought us into this existence is continuing to live us and continuing to do everything. It's not like, oh, I'm now this adult and I've got to work all this shit out, sort of thing. Like, it's already living through us and continuing and seeing that story of me trying to work something out, or do something, and it's already happening. The functioning, it's beating the heart. That amazing intelligence is doing all this stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit of arrogance, not arrogance, but yeah, to think, oh, I need to, this little tiny little separate thing is running the show and, doing all this stuff, the immensity of the universe doing all this stuff, and I'm like, puts it in perspective a little bit, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Beautifully said. I have a comment from JB, who says, every weekend it seems like the spiel can't get any more clear, but every weekend it does. Thank to you both and everyone else who contributes. Thank you, JB. Yeah, and thank you, Adrian. That was beautiful highlights. That's, light coming through the cracks. That was a new thing that you said today.
You haven't
Not
been.
new.
You haven't been listening.
Yeah, maybe. But it was new since last few weeks, and it was nice. It was bright. It was imagery to it. It's a good metaphor. So, anyone would like to contribute or highlight something or add?
We're just talking to this.
Yes.
Oh, there's a mic there. Right. I met Bob quite a long time ago, and we used to dialogue quite a bit. Prior to that, I was reading I Am That and meditating a lot. And in I Am That, it continuously said, you know that you are, that sense of presence. That's it. But it never really impacted me until I heard it directly from Bob. Even though I'd read it over and over and over, and tried to meditate on it over and over and over was when I heard the words from Bob that suddenly become real, or seemed to become real. Obviously, it had always been real.
Yeah.
That awareness was always present and never been obscured at all. As Bob says, you know, you're already that. We are already what we're seeking. We know that we are. If you bring your attention totally to that beingness, that knowing that you are, that unlocks the door, so to speak. So, thanks, Bob.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it very much.
Two-way street.
I have another comment here from Amarnath. He says, beautiful Tanya, I has both components of imagination and non-imaginable self, capital S. We ignore the non-imaginable and confuse non-imaginable as imagined. That's very fun game of mind. Even now these words and thoughts are part of the game. We really never entered the game. Yeah, great. Just as Tazi was saying.
Yeah.
You know that you are. But that's not good enough, right? So the story is constructed over and the seeking happens within. And the miracle, that greatest secret, open secret, and the most beautiful, lively miracle is completely overlooked as not good enough. Says who? Says the judgmental, the software, the automatic program, which is just designed to ensure survival of the body. So it always gets relative. This is good, this is bad, this is pleasant, this is painful. But this is not to be believed. This doesn't have any answers. It is just dividing. It's a division software. While the oneness of that being, that miracle of the existence is there, regardless of what the software is going to chat on top of it. It doesn't matter what the mind says. The thought doesn't matter. It's just. And of course, it may matter relatively and may be appreciated. We all love the stories, and there's nothing wrong in that appreciation of the 10,000 things, which were quite mind-blowing. And that's really the only way the beauty and love can exist, through the appearance, of not one, more than one. But are they real? They all transient? They all disappearing in a moment. I mean, even in a moment you move attention somewhere else, gone. And the attention is constantly moving. So they are to be appreciated, but they're not the ultimate truth. They're phenomena, like Bob says. They're just the Maya, the rainbow, the smoke in the mirrors. That's it. Tanya says, though makes it so complicated when it's just that you know that you are. Thought makes it so complicated when it's just that you know that you are. Yeah, that's the only thing that you really know. The rest of the things you believe, and belief is nonsense, as Bob said. One thing you know, that you are. The rest, whatever else you know, is a belief. You know that the sky is blue? Yeah, go out at night. See how well you know. You know that you are a body? How? Who told you that? So whatever else, apart from the undeniable fact of existence, you think you know, that's only thinking that you know. Yes, Julia?
No, I was just going to comment more on the knowing. Yeah, I think Krishnamurti was trying to point in that direction as well when he's talking about freedom from the known. Because when we say we know something, we're bringing, something from the imaginary past or the dreaming or whatever that's not here now, which is 100% programmed and uniquely for all of us. So it's like, anyway, that's what I was thinking about it when you.
Yeah, thank you. I have Tanya commenting on replying to her own comment on the spiel. How great is that? You are never in the mind-thought game. The beliefs have nothing to do with you. And that was on the there was a comment on listening to the spiel was a relaxation, recognizing this. There is not really a problem. Problem is imagination. Old stories seem to be believed in for years without a thought. It's gone, and so it can't be true. The one thought seems to be relaxing, relating it is not found, and that is the me. And I think there was one more comment from Donna. So wonderful that which is seemingly everything and nothing does not need to know itself, yet dreams arise of an apparent journey to know itself. Laughing out loud. Hi Donna, yeah, isn't it cool? It's super cool. Yeah. Dean, did you want to say something? Please. Come on. Oh.
Okay, usually I always talk about a story. I just realized. So today I was trying not to think about the story which I have or I came with, and then more focusing on the energy when Bob said it. And of course the thing that you're not your body, and then there's the energy, and then when I sort of focus on that and I'll close my eyes, I mostly notice like energy in my forehead, and it feels like, I don't know, tickling, or I don't know how to describe it. But then before I felt it in my hands as well, and then I sort of noticed that my hands, you're laughing, and my hands are sort of, were crossing, but they didn't feel like they're crossing anymore, and then that felt like there's nothing, I'm not connected to my hands. And so that's the energy, is it? Like it's, yeah. So it's pretty cool. Because it feels like you're not your body in some parts. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's
yeah, one thing one can sort of recognize is that seeing, the activity of seeing is happening spontaneously, and I'm not doing it. There's no person there that's doing the seeing. It's just happening spontaneously. And that applies to this knowing as well. The activity of cognition is happening spontaneously. And, you know, to recognize this is the way it is. It's spontaneously happening. Life itself is spontaneous. And then we add on meaning and structure and personal stuff. But what I used to call the first instant, the only instant, is that spontaneous cognition, seeing, knowing. And it's not, there's no entity there. There's no concept of an entity in that original spontaneous movement. And then the idea of me is born through society and contact with others. But a good question to ask is, where am I seeing from?
yeah.
You know, where am I actually seeing from? And if you recognise that the me is just a fiction, a story, you know, a story can't see anything, a word can't see anything, an idea can't see anything. So the me can't see anything, but in the scheme of things, it borrows the seeing and constructs its own personal story to survive, because life is a jungle out there. So, but just coming back to that spontaneous nature of phenomena, it's not me doing it. There's no me there doing it. It's a fiction. You can't even do anything about it. That's the way it expresses. And it's pointless fighting against it, but you can see it for what it is. And then there's a sense of relief, because it's almost like there's a choice. You don't have to follow the thoughts about me, because that always leads to trouble or drama or whatever, because the me has to survive, and it will, you know, I don't know if you remember the panic for toilet paper.
Yeah.
You know, what a strange thing. Everyone's buying up all this toilet paper. It's some strange survival thing, you know. People have to wipe their ass, you know, and that's the most important thing.
The last thing you would have expected everyone to
Yeah, I
panic
thought
about.
baked beans. Baked beans. Anyway, that's the way it is. But, you know, where am I seeing from? That's a really a practical thing to ask. And you can't really answer it, but the seeing is happening.
I liked a metaphor you used once about Mickey Mouse.
Oh yeah, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, you can talk more about that, but it's like that, you know, that does the fictitious character.
Yeah, when I was a child, let's start earlier. Yeah, a long time ago, I was a child. Mickey Mouse was a huge cartoon thing. You know, every time you went to the movies, there'd be a Mickey Mouse cartoon with Goofy and all the rest. And Mickey Mouse is a fictional character. Like me. The me is a fictional character. But you can watch a cartoon. At no point is Mickey Mouse going to jump off the screen and come and pinch your ice cream or your popcorn. It's not going to happen. So Mickey Mouse is a character. So is the image of self. The image of self is, there's nothing static or permanent about it. It's constantly changing, and it's very fragile. Somebody only has to say something that's challenging or insulting to that image, and all hell breaks loose if you're invested in it. So it's a good thing to realise that it, you know, the me is just a Mickey Mouse, Walt Disney, and Disneyland. I mean, Disneyland is this huge thing that people go to. You know, that's on the bucket list. To go to Disneyland, what for? They even have Mickey Mouse. You know, people dressed up as Mickey Mouse walking around, and it's great for kids, but grown-ups, I don't know.
Costume party.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Disneyland. I'm not a grown-up yet. I'm just talking about, you know, knowing that you are. I've said in the past to quite a few people, you know that you are, and they go, well, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Without realising the significance of saying everyone knows that. Doesn't matter whether you're old, or very young, or if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu or a man or a woman or whatever. If you're a good person or a bad person, even, you know, the murderer or the most vile individual knows that. And it's incredibly significant, you know, that everyone knows that. And they don't have to think to know it. There's no thought required to be. Everyone's being.
Yeah.
You don't have to say I am to know you are. It's non-conceptual understanding, non-conceptual being, which is present prior to becoming a Muslim, becoming a man, becoming a woman, or anything else.
I was just thinking about, you know, we're talking about knowing all the drama that comes about from wanting to know. all the oh, I don't know, I want to know, I don't know, but I don't know, but I want to know.
Desire.
Yeah. And the desire to not desire, to not desire. Nothing more I can really say about that, except that
cute,
It-
isn't it?
it could be encouraged to allow yourself to be as clueless as you already are.
And Bob says the only problem we ever have is the ignorance. You want to say a couple of words about that?
Well, that's what I tell you, it's ignorance. Not that we're dull or stupid, but we ignore our true nature. It just means we turn our back on what's there already and focus into the story and ignoring the light of life that you really are, actuality.
Yeah, we get distracted with the story. Yes, Heyman?
Thank you. Ignorance is a solvable problem, and that's Bob's essential suggestion. It is ignorance which is my problem, which ultimately is not my problem, it's just a problem. It is not that I want to have this problem, it is that I can't solve this problem because there is a process which includes everything, and well, that's what is. It is what is, and yeah.
And all that happened within that presence. James, do you want to?
Yeah,
Please.
sort of just a response, but I was just going to say, if you know that you're ignorant, are you really ignorant?
You are probably right. Everything is right. I mean, everything is meant to happen exactly as it is. I just don't have control on it. I have a lot of tension and stress in the system. Not that I want to bring it here and, just I don't have control. I don't have control. I don't exist to have control. If there was a button that I can press, and entire humanity, or entire, intelligence being in all galaxies, Andromeda, Milky Way, everywhere, become enlightened, I would do it faster than blink of eye. I don't have control, and I don't exist, and it is obsession that I'm repeating this over and over and over. That's also something that I'm aware of. I'm implying my the precise detection of small things, but persistent, that can remain in the system and cause big things in a long time. But your presence here has got positive influence on my system. I thank you for this.
Did you want to comment, Bob, on that? No?
I was going to comment just about the stress. This question that I heard the other day that I just like it. Is that what is apparently happening? I like that one. That question, is that what is apparently happening? It's sort of an invitation to notice that it's not what's really happening. It's still a story in your head, right? Any stress or anxiety is about what's not happening now. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I think there's multiple ways to look at things, and one way is you can dismiss things as not happening, or you can just accept them fully as they are. And I think
That's the same.
and it may get you to the same place, but I think this thing that it's a story. Well, isn't that also a story? It's a story that it's a story, and you just get in this infinite regress. And I think one way to contend with the challenges of life is to realize that we are the ones that respond to them. And when you see the truth that we create the way we're feeling, we create our reality from that perspective. You can either accept or resist. Generally, it comes down to those two things, and it may not always be able to be simplified to those two things. But I think there's this strength and power that comes from realizing that in this moment I create how I feel. And the answer is how, right? Is it through acceptance? Is it through recognizing that it's all one? Is it through releasing resistance, surrender? And I think the concept of non-duality is also just a story. And if you go to any sage, everyone sees reality in a slightly different perspective. They'll all say slightly different things. Sometimes it's profoundly different. So who's right? Right? I don't buy this thing that there's one universal truth. Because what is truth? When you really investigate truth, it's not so easy to see. And so I think everyone has to construct their own path. And there's a famous Bruce Lee quote that I like. Take what is useful, disregard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. And when you try and mold your unique consciousness to that of others, I think you just become a sheep. And so, getting back to the original question of the soul, I see it sort of as the Hindu Atman. You know, there's an essence, there's a divine intelligence within us that's not separate from the one, but we all have a unique expression of it. And I think we should rejoice in that uniqueness, and we should allow our own wisdom to come through. I think this is vitally important, otherwise ideologies form, more concepts form, and more division forms. And ultimately, I think that brings you all closer to one. So, anyway, that's just some thoughts.
Did you want to comment, Bob? No? I have a couple of comments from people who are with us online. And of course, what James speaks, he speaks from his own experience. If anyone resonates, you can, because that's completely different to what we say. It may be helpful, but we don't really construct the concept of the me that can choose how to respond, or the me that has free will and can. It's a little bit different. This is your experience. It's not good or bad. It's valid for you, but it's not the non-duality the way Bob speaks it, and it may be better. Someone wants to speak. Okay, I'll read it later.
Hello everyone, this is my first time here.
Hey, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I like what's happening here. This is actually crazy. This is actually crazy that we have someone here serves as a broken record, telling the truth again in different words, different sentences. Through different descriptions of different objects, but the same thing again. And he has been doing this for several years, from what I heard.
44, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is crazy, but yeah, it's good. And we have a room of people here listening to the same thing again. And yeah, and then you go out and live your own life, and then you come back and listen again, and then you go back and live your own life, and it happens. Yeah, just it is good, but it's also crazy. But what's crazier is people out there, they don't know this, and they're living their life not knowing what's really happening, like a machine. That is actually more crazy.
It's a degree of crazy.
Yes. And yeah, to speak to your point, you reckon that there's no universal truth.
There may or may not be.
Not in his experience, I think.
Well, I think there could be, but it's there could be, but it may not be an on or off thing, right? It may not be there is or there isn't. It could be a continuum, a spectrum. There could be truths that are mostly universal, right? And so, what's your perspective on
it? What he said, or what Buddha has said, that is true. That is truth. That is the not the end of the truth. That's the most fundamental way of expressing the truth. The way we live, we are also expressing the truth, but doesn't mean truth ends here, right? So what Buddha has already said, everything about how to go to the path of liberation, and why we suffer, and the ignorance and everything, the veil of forgetting and everything, it's all true. So I just sense this weird sense of still not complete faith that I heard from what you said. There's also it's not even flexibility. It is, there's still things that you think you don't know, which makes sense.
That's the one thing they know.
Which makes total sense. Yes, that's why it makes sense.
Yeah.
But faith is very important to live a life in this body.
But faith is the presupposition that you don't know. Right?
How about a definition of truth?
Yeah.
One Bob uses. The truth is that which never changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So all of the thinking mind is changing. All of the physical universe is changing. But there's a principle, a cognizing principle. There's something that's cognizing all of that change.
Yeah.
And that's not changing. It's always cognizing. It cognizes deep sleep, cognizes the dream state, cognizes the waking state. All of that transience moves upon it or within it, or you can't really explain. But I think that's the truth that's being pointed to, is that which never ever changes. And it must be formless.
Yes. Yeah. But if the point, that's exactly right. Like the truth is being pointed to, right? So how can we claim that you can feel you know the truth? It's the impersonal. No, just once I'm done. It's the impersonal. I know it's a bit of an odd way of doing the conversation, but and so there can be a knowing of truth, but any expression of it is bound to be subject to its own limitations. And if you say Buddha knew the truth, then one could argue that Christ didn't know the truth, or Muhammad didn't know the truth, or you could say they all knew the truth, but expressing it in different ways. And so that's how I see things. And if you say that's a universal truth, maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. Maybe there's unique truths that they're both expressing, or maybe there's an element of truths in everything. But I think, personally, for me, this recognition that I don't know is the most liberating thing. And that welcomes a discussion from all different perspectives. And it actually doesn't segregate, but unites. So
yes, we don't know, because Buddha has things that he didn't know. He knows where things began and where things end, because like everything started from nothingness and it's just a cycle. But why that was a phenomena, he didn't know. So yes, there are things we don't know. There will always be things that we don't know. But there are things that we do know, that we know is the truth. So,
like the truth of your own being.
And that's the only
thing. And the truth about love, and why we're all one, and we're expressing the one thing, which is nothing. But there are
We're unique patterns of energy, but each unique pattern of energy, there's only one thing they know for sure, and that's the truth of their own being, of their existence. And Bob pointed out, the rest of it is a story. And I just could not get my head around that for years and years, because the problem was I was in my head. I was in the story. There was me, the biggest character, as Gilbert said, in the story, and then everything that happened to me. And, and I was, suffering from terminal uniqueness, and you know, and coming here for 38 years or 34 years, it had been pointed out, as you said, over and over again, but I resonated with it. But the mind could not get its head around it, you know, and the me, the alleged me, you know, just would not let go. You know, and it was like a whirling dervish, the me and the other person, place or thing, the me and the other person, place or thing, over and over again. And then all of a sudden, just dropped away, and I did nothing. You know, I did nothing.
Yeah, so Buddha said, with our thoughts we make the world. And one of Bob's pointers is, watch the mind and see how it operates. It's a very simple sentence, very ordinary language, nothing spiritual about it. And anyone can do it. If you watch the mind and see how it operates, it reveals everything you need to really know about your own mind, which doesn't really exist as a separate thing. But the question, where am I seeing from? You know, we all have our philosophical points of view and everything. But where is that narrative seen from? What is actually witnessing this narrative? Which the narrative satisfies something in us, but it's never true. The narrative is never true, because the natural state is wordless and silent. And this is very significant. All insights don't have words. The insight is naked. It's a moment of pure seeing. And it's nothing but seeing. But we want it to be permanent. And the one who wants to be permanent is the one that's getting in the way and dividing it up. So if you watch the mind and see how it operates, you recognise that the mind can only divide itself. It can't divide the wholeness. The wholeness is wholeness no matter what happens. But this thing we call mind can only divide itself, and it divides itself through words and meaning and personal points of view and investments in a fictional character. And that's where all the suffering comes from. Psychological suffering is not necessary. There's no one on this planet who will argue in favour of it unless they're absolutely nuts. Nobody wants psychological suffering, and it's unnecessary. But we have to watch the mind and see how it operates. Because if we're always wanting answers to come from somewhere else, we're just being caught back into the same old thing, which is Maya.
And what the mind does is it wants to name and claim everything.
Yeah, of course.
It wants to name and claim everything because that's its nature. That's the way it operates. It's a clunky thing when you really see it. You know, it's just naming and claiming, when you realise it's just a little phantom running around. It's it takes away all that dis-ease.
Well, this awareness that Bob's talking about, that is what sees the thoughts and knows the thoughts. You know, the thoughts come as words and images. They transit in an emptiness here somewhere. Okay, that's the simplicity of it there, right there. What is witnessing or seeing or knowing the thoughts? What is that?
That presence.
What is that? You know, that's the investigation. That's what we have to, you know, find out. What is that seeing? And this seeing is happening without eyes.
Yeah, the eyes can't see it.
It's seeing images here, what we say inside the head, in this empty space. It's seeing those images without using eyes. It's hearing the thoughts without using ears.
That's right.
So it's a cognizing nothingness that has no form and of itself has no beginning or no end.
That's right.
Never arises and never sets. And it's just a timeless knowing, being, all these words we try to put together to explain it, and it goes so far. It's a cognizing singularity. Essentially, it's a cognizing singularity.
Sure is.
It's written so perfectly in Bob's book. Keep seeing that there is no thing that sees. It's like, it's just incredible. Like, if you just see that in itself, then there is no central point that sees anything. It's just the seeing, and within the seeing there's a knowing, and it's all infused into this experience of being, and it's just, and it's miraculous. And I think you said something about like not celebrating or rejoicing in our experience. It's natural to rejoice. Like, how can you not rejoice when there's no one to be in the way of anything? Like, this is just a spontaneous experience of rejoicing and celebrating in the not seeing. That there's no one that's actually seeing, and that's all.
And I think
to
just
say.
Jumping off that, and something I wanted to say before is like, you can't try to be aware, right? It's just this recognition that you're aware is where the freedom comes from. And I think having someone that has recognized that in themselves, like Bob, there's sort of an impersonal imprint onto an individual that sort of it can't be described, and I think that's the but you know, even that can be set up for limitations, right? Because someone listening may be like, oh, you know, is he claiming something that I don't have? Do I need to see someone that's awake so that I can be awake? And is there really awakened to sleep, or is it all just perfect? And that's why it's like, the minute you get into words, we all end up to the same place. So when you recognize that, why not just have fun with the words and not take them too seriously, right?
Okay, except that you said we were blending, but you just said something. The words. When we get into that, the further we go into the words, the further we steer from the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob wants
Okay.
Bob wants to wrap it up.
In the
Don't need that one. Just speak.
in the 40 odd years I've been speaking this, I haven't been able to fix that broken record.
I'm so grateful for that. Bob.
Wonderful.
So
Keep it on. Yes.
Thank you.
Not broken. Good point. Yes. So thank you.
Bob.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.